What's up, MetaNerdz? This video is all about the RZ-1 A-Wing Interceptor. This starfighter was actually designed by the Rebel Alliance, specifically Alliance Underground Engineering, an organization formed by General Dan Dodonna and a former employee of Kuat Systems Engineering turned Rebel sympathizer, Walex Blissix. Due to the limited resources of the rebellion, and because of all the tech packed into this thing, it cost a whopping 175,000 credits. That's nearly 3 times the cost of a TIE fighter. At 6.5 meters or 21 feet wide, it was nearly the exact same width as a TIE fighter, and at 9.6 meters or 31.5 feet long, it was just under half the length of a Y-Wing bomber, and about 1.5 Jawas longer than a Delta 7. Its extremely sleek profile, however, is created by the fact that it only has a height of 1.9 meters, about 6.25 feet, making the A-Wing about the same height as Han Solo. The A-Wing has the exact same maneuverability rating as the TIE fighter, but this vehicle is far superior in the fact that it has shielding, a hyperdrive, and even a pair of concussion missiles to go along with its pair of laser cannons. Its small frame and powerful engines make it so that this starfighter can reach a maximum atmospheric speed of 1,300 kilometers per hour, or 807 miles an hour, making it just a little bit faster than a Delta 7. But it's said that by activating its deflector shields, it would completely eliminate drag in a planet's atmosphere, allowing the A-Wing to have a much greater top speed. The A-Wing required pilots of exceptional skill, because without room for an astromech, all of the ship's navigations and slight adjustments during battle had to be manually inputted by the pilot. This craft was highly maneuverable, but because it had Novaldex J77 Event Horizon engines, which would be the most powerful engines for the next 2 decades, the controls for an A-Wing were highly sensitive, and it was up to the pilot to make adjustments to the 2 dorsal and the 2 ventral stabilizer wings, knowing that with this kind of power output, any minor mistake would send the A-Wing into a tailspin. But an A-Wing pilot didn't just have to fly this thing, it also had to intercept its enemies. Again, without the help of an astromech, an A-Wing pilot was responsible for aiming these 2 forward-facing laser cannons, which could rotate up and down 60 degrees, with some A-Wings having modifications which allowed them to swivel completely around with a 360-degree arc. Their 2 concussion missile launchers each carried 6 missiles for a total of 12 on board, but it also had some tech aimed at defense, like its deflector shield projector, a sensor jamming unit, a long-range detection array, and some units were equipped with flare launchers to help prevent those pesky lock-ons. And although the frame of an A-Wing was built out of a titanium alloy, and the outer hull was made of Durasteel, most pilots knew that if their shield went out, and the enemy was lucky enough to get a hit on this fighter, they were most likely about to become one with the Force. This is why their nickname, Slims, actually has 2 meanings. In one way it references its small frame, but it was also used as pilots as a way to make light of the fact that they had a slim chance of surviving if they ran into trouble. The history of the A-Wing started off when General Dan Dodonna was reviewing the events of the Battle of Yavin, and he was very proud of the X-Wing, but he was deeply troubled by the fact that 3 TIE fighters almost put an end to the trench run. He realized that the Republic Navy needed some form of interceptor, and he was smart enough to anticipate that the Empire would be thinking the same thing. And of course he was correct, because as plans were being drawn up for the A-Wing, Centaur Fleet Systems was already working on updating the TIE Interceptor. He presented the need of an interceptor to Walex Blissix, the ex-Kuat Systems engineer who had previously worked on the Delta 7 and the A3 interceptors. These 2 worked together and based their initial designs off of the R-22 Spearhead, which already had the nickname A-Wing just because of its shape. And they worked with Jake Farrell, a pilot who flew one of these R-22 Spearheads during the Battle of Yavin. These 3 were able to come up with a prototype for the A-Wing, and this was presented to Mon Mothma, but she was dealing with the open rebellions upon thousands of different worlds as a result of the destruction of the first Death Star. Because Alliance resources were so scattered during this time, she initially turned down any funding for this new project, but Dodonna was able to leverage some of the fame he got from being the general of the Battle of Yavin, and eventually Mon Mothma gave in and approved the A-Wing project, but with notably reduced funding. The first A-Wings were hand-assembled at Alliance factories on Carduin and the Chardon shipyards. This reduced budget means some things had to be changed, and a lot of its original components were just repurposed from other ships. But still in the year 0 ABY, the first A-Wing prototypes to actually fly were piloted by the Soaring Dactylians, a rebel squadron which came under attack by the Empire. In this very first skirmish involving an A-Wing, they proved just how quick and deadly this new starfighter could be, but sadly only 2 of the pilots survived. And to make matters even worse, the A-Wing had one of the slowest production rates in the entire Alliance fleet, and even by the time of the Battle of Endor, in the year 4 ABY, there was only 1 full unit of A-Wings, those used by Green Squadron. This bottleneck in production was due to the hand assembly and second-hand components that needed to be used, all while trying to pack in those complex systems that we talked about earlier. The fact that these A-Wings varied so much from one another meant that maintenance crews took even longer to fix them. After the Battle of Endor and the fall of the Empire, Incom Corporation, the people who made ARC 170s for the Republic, decided to align with the New Republic and started to mass produce the second series of A-Wings, the Mark II. The most notable difference of a Mark II A-Wing is that all of them came stock with 360-degree rotating laser cannons. But they still had the defensive issues that we talked about earlier, and thus the Republic started production of E-Wings and T-65AC-4 X-Wings. These two starfighters had similar speeds, but had much heavier shields and armor, along with an astromech and even more powerful weapons. But the A-Wing was never completely decommissioned, and during the Yuzhong-Vong War, they again proved themselves to be a very formidable starfighter. Well, that's it for its history, but you definitely want to hear these cool facts and behind-the-scenes stuff. During the Galactic Civil War, there were some variants of A-Wings that had advanced concussion missiles, and these were said to do enough damage that they could take on Imperial Star Destroyers. Because all of those early A-Wings were handmade, there was a ton of variation, with one of the most ridiculous being an A-Wing whose panels were actually made out of wood. And that wedge shape at the very front of an A-Wing was actually part of its reinforced heat shield. It was intended to help it out during atmospheric entry, but pilots also realized that it made for an excellent makeshift battering ram. They knew to only use this during a last resort, or if there was no chance for escape or survival. And A-Wing pilots knew that if they were going down, they could just direct the prow of their ship into their enemy, and usually take it out with them. So when Arvel Kryan did this during the Battle of Endor, this was actually an outcome that had been foreseen by many A-Wing pilots, and he was confident that he would be able to break through the transparasteel windows of the Star Dreadnought, the Executor. Originally, A-Wings were going to have a blue color, but this was changed to red so that they could be filmed using blue screen technology. And the existence of the R-22 spearheads is a form of retcon to make up for the fact that in Star Wars Empire at War, Star Wars Rebel Assault, and the Droids animated series all contain A-Wings before the date that they were actually supposed to be made. And the actual dimensions of an A-Wing are one of the most hotly debated topics in Star Wars, as many people believe that those stats I gave you earlier are way too big compared to what we see on screen. They argue that in the films, the cockpit seems so crammed and barely bigger than the pilot himself, and fans have come up with all kinds of alternative dimensions for the A-Wing. Well, that's it for the RZ-1 A-Wing Interceptor. If you liked it, go ahead and hit that like button, and be sure to leave a comment down below if I missed any cool facts, or if you have a suggestion for future videos. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at MetaNerdz Lore, so you can see us build Star Wars props and cosplays, along with some other cool Star Wars stuff. If you want to help support this channel, check out the description below for our Amazon store and our Patreon. And be sure to subscribe, because we're making videos like this every single day. But more important than all that, remember, a well-placed A-Wing can do more damage than any concussion missile, and the Force will be with you, always.